Good evening. Welcome to Grand Blanc Township Board meeting for Tuesday, June 10th. If we could all rise for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk Robertson, would you please call the roll?
I would be happy to call the roll, Mr. Supervisor. Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
Myself, of course, I'm here. Treasurer Yancho. Here. Trustee Brown. Here. Trustee Fike is absent. Trustee Hugo is absent. Trustee White.
Here.
5 members present, a quorum.
Thank you. And now I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda. Motion by Mr. Brown. Support by Mr. Yancho.
Motion by Brown, supported by Yancho for the agenda. Trustee White.
Yes.
Supervisor Bennett.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Trustee Brown.
Yes.
5-0, motion passes.
Thank you. And now we'll move to public comment. I have first a email that Trustee Hugo asked me to read during public comment. She said, "Good evening. I apologize for not being able to attend the meeting in person. My son is receiving his varsity letter for golf tonight. Very important for my husband and me to support him at this special event. First, I want to express my deepest condolence to the family and friends of the woman who tragically lost her life in the crash at Holly and Baldwin on June 4th. I've always been concerned about that intersection at Baldwin and Holly Road. Visibility there is extremely limited, especially when cars are turning east onto Baldwin from Holly. It is very difficult to see oncoming traffic, and I know I'm not alone in feeling unsafe at that intersection. I would really like to formally request a report from the police department indicating the number of crashes, accidents, fatalities that have occurred at this intersection. Also requesting the same information for the intersection at Baldwin and Saginaw Streets, where similar visibility issues exist. My parents live in Goodrich off Baldwin Road. My son recently got his driver's license, and it terrifies me to ever think that it's safe for not only new driver, but all drivers in both of these intersections. We always want to go through Atlas to Gale to get to my parents to avoid Baldwin and Saginaw intersection, even though my son thinks it's faster. It was deeply troubling to me that a certain number of accidents or even fatalities must occur before a traffic light or turn arrow is considered. One death is already too many. So anyways, that was from Ms. Hugo, and I know our chief has forwarded that information, but I do know that the Road Commission has been studying that intersection, both intersections. The intersection at Saginaw and Baldwin already has left turn lights there, so, but the Holly and Baldwin Road intersection, they're studying, and hopefully we'll do something with left turn signals there. With that, we have a number of individuals that would like to make public comment. And first off, we have Mr. Howie Disnell. Dissel? Okay. And Mr. Dissel tells me he's a new resident here, so welcome to Grand Blanc Township.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. I would like to just make a mention to the police officers, if I could. Keep your first aid certifications up. About 15 years ago, Pontiac Police and Fire kept me from bleeding to death in an intersection at Sanderson and Chavez. I'm grateful to be here, and I don't think I would be if it wasn't for the guys that were on first on scene. So thank you all. I'm here because Stephanie and I purchased a home, Baldwin and Dort, about a year ago. Actually, it'll be a year in July. About a year ago this time, we found this property on Zillow, and it advertised a 5-acre farmhouse with 2 barns. We went and we checked it out with a real estate agent, and the barns were equipped for chicken coop in one barn and goats in the other barn. And we thought, well, this is perfect. This is exactly what we're looking for. And even in the listing, the real estate agent mentioned the fact that it's ready for animals. So we put our funds together, and we moved in. She has a 9-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 17-year-old, and a 22-year-old, and I have a 21-year-old and a 19-year-old. Where did that time go? But it's perfect. It's 5 bedrooms, 3 baths. It's perfect for everybody coming and going as they do. We got chickens in right around St. Patrick's Day. So it's been about 90 days, and they're delicious, right? Everybody likes chicken, but they're also, I found that they're extremely calming and peaceful animals. They're not very smart, right? But they don't make a lot of noise. They don't require a significant amount of effort, and they don't complain about anything, right? They're just happy to be alive. We love them. I told the girls, these are farm animals. Don't get attached to them because there are predators, right, on the loose where we live. We've lost one to a hawk, and we lost one to a kiddie pool that accidentally found itself in there and realized it couldn't swim. So we're down to a number of birds. We're happy to have them. I got a letter in the mail on Saturday with some crushing news that we were violating an ordinance. We're not allowed to have chickens. I did some research, and I found out that just 4,000 feet south of the back of my property, I can have chickens in Holly Township. And then in Fenton Township, I'm allowed to have chickens. And then in Lake Fenton Township, I'm also allowed to have chickens. But I don't own property there, right? I own 5 acres, butted up next to 25 acres of consumers' energy infrastructure, right, which I'm proud to be next to. My neighbors to the west of me are separated from my house from like maybe 250 feet of woods. Great neighbors. And the neighbor across the street, Bob, just came over the other day and complimented Steph on all the work that she's done outside. In the 26 years that he's been there, he's never seen the house look so good. So we have amazing neighbors separated so far away that really the only thing that they could hear from the chickens is me trying to communicate with them in the morning. I don't understand where the complaint came from, right? And that's troubling for me, right? Because like my neighbors are going to rat me out. And I feel like, this whole ordinance system, right, it's like a platform to allow people to tell on their neighbors. I don't believe that. We're, Steph and I are believers in
3 minutes here, so.
Okay. So I would just ask the board, right, to make some considerations for folks in the township, in the city that have chickens, that want to keep chickens, right? They want to grow their chicken farms, right, to produce eggs, and also to teach their kids, right, like what it's all about, right? Supporting, loving, and bringing to life these amazing animals. So, I don't know what your plan is, but I would like a stay. I don't think that 10 days is enough time for me to figure out where I'm going to put the birds. I would like a stay. If not, just completely make this thing go away. I don't know what the possibilities are of making that happen, but I plead to you today to see if you can do something about it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So we also have, let's see here, Ashley Regalski. Hi, Ashley. Come on up. Good evening.
I passed out folders as well. I'm sure you've seen them.
Okay.
Give me one moment. Okay. I just wrote something that I'd like to read, if I could.
We can keep it to 3 minutes or less. That's
I can do
fine.
it. Yes.
Thanks.
All right, good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Ashley Regalski. I moved to Grand Blanc in the fall of 2023. At that time, I didn't know much about this area, but it's something meaningful to my family. My husband and I chose Grand Blanc to raise our children, and we're so grateful we made that decision. That's why I am here today to respectfully ask you to reconsider the ordinance that currently prohibits backyard chickens. The ordinance hasn't been updated since 1987, nearly 40 years ago, and so much has changed since then. In 2025, families care deeply about sustainability, clean living, and knowing where their food comes from. For many of us, raising a few hens is a small but meaningful step in the right direction. I'm simply asking for the ability to keep 3 hens, no roosters, in a clean and closed coop on my private property. An average hen weighs 4 to 6 pounds, meaning I am asking to care for a total of around 18 pounds of quiet, well-maintained animals, far less than what is allowed with large dogs or cats. I'd like to speak to one of the most common concerns, noise. In my own neighborhood, I'd assume throughout Grand Blanc, we already coexist with a wide range of wildlife. Birds chirp from morning to night, frogs can be heard well into the evening, geese pass through honking loudly and leaving droppings. These are accepted parts of living in a beautiful nature-rich area. According to the National Institute of Deafness, geese can reach up to 90 decibels, bullfrogs 85 in groups. Songbirds, robins typically sing at 50 to 60. A hen's cluck averages 60 to 70 decibels, which is no louder than a typical conversation. Compare that to the 85 to 100 decibels of a barking dog, and it's easy to see that the hen is not the noisy nuisance that some people fear. And yet these animals are allowed, despite the noise, the mess, and the lack of supervision. This isn't about creating a nuisance, it's about building a more sustainable life for my family, providing fresh eggs, creating natural fertilizer for our garden, reducing ticks and mosquitoes, which are a concern in our area, and teaching my children responsibility and where their food comes from. Additionally, residents who currently drive to nearby cities like Fenton, Goodrich, Burton to buy fresh eggs or participate in local food swaps would have the opportunity to support small-scale agriculture right here in Grand Blanc. The current ordinance, as it stands in 1987, prohibits residents from keeping the hens, and why it should be reconsidered is for sustainability and food security, educational value, environmental benefits, and for the regional consistency, like Burton, Fenton, Davison, Holly, Linden, Flushing, Atlas, Clarkston, Ann Arbor are all allowed to have backyard hens regulated. My suggested guidelines are a limit of 4 to 6 hens per household, no roosters, and a minimum coop distance 50 to 100 feet from property lines or neighboring dwellings. The coops must meet cleanliness and containment standards, permitting and inspections as needed. And with noise, hens are quieter than dogs and many wildlife. Properly maintained coops do not have an odor. The predators, if you keep the secure designs and food storage, it'll prevent the pests. And aesthetics, a coop can be designed to blend into the yard like a small shed or garden structure. Allowing responsible backyard chicken keeping aligns with modern sustainability goals, supports families, and reflects the values of many in our community. I respectfully urge you to consider updating the ordinance so residents like myself and others.
I think we're past the 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Oh, I was.
Thank you. Mr. Paul Bolt. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. One of the things that I read in the Grand Blanc View the other day was one ambulance service for the whole county. I am very deeply distressed by that, and I'll tell you the reason why. I come from Boston. Boston, New York, LA, once they went to one ambulance service, ended up having police and fire units, ambulances to support the one county ambulance service, or one state ambulance service in one case. As such, no offense to our dedicated services is the police and the fire, there's a lot of training, a lot of schooling that has to be done. And I just feel right now that I'm like a day late and a dollar short, saying from my standpoint and my own personal experience, I've been out of Massachusetts for 25 years, in the state of Michigan and Grand Blanc Township. The trouble is that I still have a lot of family back there. And even with the support staff of police and fire to support this, I look at Bishop Airport. I flew out of there hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. Have we had aircraft problems there? Yeah, we've had crashes. If you have one ambulance service and they cover the whole county, who's protecting the rest of the county? So my ask of the council that's here tonight is that can you begin to gather either by political poll, Facebook poll, some kind of poll, get a subcommittee of the people who have a vested interest in it. Until I read it, I didn't think it was a problem. I look out, I see Patriot, I see MedStar, I see Swartz, I see a lot of ambulances. I said, this is great. Why I'm in Grand Blanc Township? I start seeing one ambulance service, I'm going to get very, very concerned. So thank you very much. I just want to know that.
Okay, thank you. Just as a matter of practice, I'm sorry?
No, nothing.
Okay. Is there anybody else? I know that was all that I had for comment cards, but Mr. Ert, sure. Okay. Mr. Eddard, good evening.
Good evening to you all. You know, I'd like to talk about the county EMS operations again. From the experts at your last meeting, okay? There will be a problem, not if there's a problem. There will be a problem from the experts. This issue is at the state and county level. It's not at the township level. They're not following the law. It's got to be addressed somehow. At your last meetings, there was talk of ways to handle this problem internally by using and training police and fire. They will be the first ones on the scene then, okay, if we train them. Our police department and our fire departments are well respected in this community, okay? They have a very good track record. I'm happy with them. And if we want to train them, keep training them for everything we can. But they definitely will get a black eye when this problem happens. When the lawsuit is filed, the police and fire will be drug into this. They're the first ones on the scene. There's a problem. It's scary. You know, I hate to say it, it's almost like an ambush. We know the problem's there. So I want you to think about that very carefully. The residents are also a part of the county, and we carry the liabilities for the county. If you have the fire and police department here responding as first responders there, and there's a problem, they're going to be drug into it. Now the residents are also supporting the county's lawsuit, and we're supporting the township's lawsuit. It gets scary, you know? I mean, we got a good police department, we got a good fire department. I hate to throw them into this situation where they're backing up a losing deal. So I ask you to solve this problem through state and the county. It's a state and county level problem. It's not this township's problem. It happens to be our residents' problem, but you don't have authority. But I think you need to work with the county and the state. Don't just put a Band-Aid on this by saying, hey, we're going to train some people to go help out. Well, it's only going to give us some problems. So I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. Any other public comment this evening? Okay, seeing no further public comment, we'll close public comment. I just want to mention that we don't typically respond immediately to every public comment just because it alters our agenda and turns it into not following what we have prepared to follow. But in a moment, I'm going to ask Mr. Yancho, who lifelong farmer, to respond to some of the concerns with regard to the chickens. And I appreciate the concerns with regard to the dispatching of EMS units by the county, by County 911, and we're continuing to address that issue as well. So we'll address a couple of those issues in just a moment. I'd like to move on to recognition, and the board at this time would like to recognize our newest police officers and conduct the ceremonial oath of office and our badge pinning. If we could have Chief Rennie come forward and Clerk Dave Robertson.
Yeah, if I could say a few things before Clerk Robertson does the ceremonial oath of office. I'm proud to announce and stand before you today that we are now at full capacity. So we are budgeted for 46 police officers, sworn police officers. We are at that level officially 2 Fridays ago. So that's a good thing. But I do have to give credit where credit is due. First off, our recruiting lieutenant, Lieutenant John Swartz, he's not here today, but that guy is a hustler. He's, that was one of his goals, is to get this department at full strength. He's just done a tremendous job. He reaches out to these recruits, visits colleges, goes by word of mouth as well, and you'll see that some of these candidates here today were from Lieutenant Swartz's efforts. Second is the Township Board and the residents of this community. We see around the nation that Township Board, city councils, that don't go out there and support their police. You actually have police fleeing those communities to go work somewhere else. We are the exact same opposite. Like I said, now we are fully staffed, and that's really hard to even find within this county. So third, I do have to say, is these men and women who stand behind me today, they do it not for the thank yous, they do things for the right reasons. So to uphold our core values, respect, compassion, empathy, and serving with integrity for the citizens of Grand Blanc. So I thank them as well. Now, if I could have Officer Kuznier come up here, Officer Bellamy, and Officer Kraft, so I could introduce you to the public. This is Officer Kuznier right here. Officer Kuznier comes to us with a little bit of experience from Dryden Township out there in Lapeer. When he did his interview, he said, you know what, Grand Blanc Township has the best reputation around Genesee County, and I want to learn how to do police work the right way. I remember that specifically. Dennis Lamata, he was right there. Limata was right there as well. So we are so happy that Chase came on board. That was just a few months ago. He is excelling through the FTO process. A matter of fact, he's in his final days with a field training officer where they do an extensive 14-week training period with a training officer to learn how and why Grand Blanc Township does what we do. Next, I have Officer Dalton Kraft. Dalton Kraft, we sponsored him through the police academy. He has been in the U.S. Navy. Actually, he still currently is in the U.S. Navy as a reserve officer. So he has attended Grand Blanc schools quite a while ago. Those were your words, at middle school east and west. So we're glad to have him, and we have high hopes for him as well. Last is Officer Bellamy. Officer Bellamy actually comes to us from Toledo, Ohio. So, and like I said, we have a great reputation on doing what we do and things the right way. A matter of fact, he went to college where he played football at Sienna Heights with Officer Lyons right over here. So Officer Lyons found out that Officer Bellamy was looking for a job. Officer Lyons said, hey, you know what? I work at a great police department with a great support from the community. So why don't you apply with us? He applied with us, and here he stands today. So we're excited to have all three of these guys on board with us. So Chase, if you could introduce who's going to do your badge pinning.
My wife's going to be pinning my badge. Her name is Jessica Kuzner.
Okay. If you could step on up, Jessica. Dalton?
My wife, Alexis Kraft.
And then after the swearing, the oath of office, then you'll do the badge pinning. And Bellamy, Officer Bellamy?
My wife, Java, is going to pin me.
Yep.
Evening, everyone. Congratulations again. If you would, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of police officer in and for the Township of Grand Blanc, County of Genesee, and the State of Michigan, according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations.
All right.
Mike?
Welcome on. Yes. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Again,
Thank you so much.
congratulations, man. Welcome. Glad to have you here.
Well, we not only want to thank the officers, we want to thank their spouses as well and their families, because we know this job that we call police officer is more than just the officers. I know their families are concerned about them whenever they're at work, and rightly so, given some of what goes on in our society today. But we appreciate your family's support for our officers as well. But as Chief mentioned, we've developed a reputation here of top-of-the-line policing, and we continue with that culture. And thank you, Chief, to you and your team for all you do. Thanks. With that, anybody that wants to step out and congratulate them, go ahead. We're going to continue on with the meeting in just a moment. You okay to say a few words, Mike? You okay to say a few words? So with that, I don't know if everybody here knows, but we actually have a person who actually has made a lifetime career out of farming and has held a number of prestigious positions in that industry or that field. And Mike Yancho, I know you've been president of, I know you go to Washington to lobby on behalf of
Michigan Farm
farmers.
Bureau, Genesee County Farm Bureau, Michigan Nursery and Landscape
Right.
Association.
And you've been on our planning commission, you were on our planning commission for a number of years,
8
Mike.
years, I think.
So I know that the planning commission has looked at I don't want to get into a real long dissertation, and we'll be glad to, I'm sure, meet individually with anybody as well, but what's your thoughts? The planning commission has looked at the chicken issue, and just maybe you can point out a few of the concerns that,
Well, one of the things that on the planning commission, we were concerned because it's hard to create a one-size-fits-all ordinance. What may work in one situation doesn't always work in another. And so we have to look out for the needs of all the citizens in the township all at once and try to craft that into an ordinance that fits every situation. When it comes to some of the things that I heard tonight, the first one was noise. And hens can be quiet, but if there's a coyote or a raccoon outside their cage, they are not going to be quiet. They are all going to be going off all at once. And that can be disturbing. And when does that happen? It happens after midnight. Food safety. People having backyard chickens are one of the primary vectors of bird flu. So bird flu comes in from the wild birds. Our chickens get it. Our chickens are captive, but they help inoculate other wild birds who can spread bird flu and contaminate the food supply for millions and millions of people. Put the price of eggs from $3 or $4 a dozen to $9 or $10 a dozen. And that's what we've seen recently. When it comes to ticks and mosquitoes, ticks and mosquitoes can be, have their population somewhat controlled by chickens, but only if they're running loose. Chickens in a pen cannot control mosquitoes or ticks because they're not going to venture near the pen. They're going to be out in the longer grasses and so on. Fertilizer, natural fertilizer. It is unwise to use fresh animal manure on any vegetable garden. It's contaminated, it needs to be properly composted, and that means that it has to be piled up, collected, and that's where odors may come from. You can try to keep your chickens secure, and you may be able to keep predators away from your chickens, but what's going to happen is your neighbors are going to start seeing more raccoons, more coyotes, more hawks, and put their small animals at risk. So there are a number of reasons besides the cost. It's extremely more costly to raise hens for a few dozen eggs than it is to buy the eggs. So there's a number of reasons why I don't think we can change our ordinance. I know some other communities have, but my mother used to tell me, just because Bobby's going to jump off the bridge doesn't mean that you have to jump off the bridge. So that's...
Mike, one of the things that I know that we attended the Michigan Township Association conference together this year, and the Right to Farm Act people were there, Michigan Department of Agriculture, and there's a whole set of GAMP rules too that to be considered. But I'm sure you'd be happy to meet with anybody on this issue. But
Absolutely.
You know, the thing that we've been in court in the past on this, it was prior to any of this current board member serving, but over the smell. And, you know, we get calls about, you know, I got a call this morning from somebody with regard to a generator that was running all night, you know, and the noise portion of it. And we're able to have the police go out with a decibel reader and see what that noise level is. With regard to the smell, which was what we were in court previously with a couple of residents, you know, when we go out to investigate, the resident that had the chickens, I don't have any issue with the smell. Well, the neighbors do, and there's no objective way to measure whether an odor is bothersome or not. And so that was part of the court issue that we had ongoing because it wasn't being maintained well. But I'd encourage, you know, everybody to take a look at the GAMP rules and the distance requirements and things like that. You might be surprised by what those rules actually state.
I've prepared some websites that are university and other educational institutions. If any of you would like to have a copy of these, or I can send them to you via email.
We have your email, so if we can email them, and that way the links will be working. Okay, I would, and Mike, our treasurer, his email address and phone number are on our website as well, but you can catch him after the meeting as well, too. So he has his business cards up here. With that, we're going to continue on.
On item 6, approval of the consent agenda, Mr.
Thank
Supervisor.
you. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda at this time.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Yancho, support by Clerk Robertson.
Motion by Yancho, supported by, motion by, bear with me just a moment. Motion by Yancho, supported by Robertson. Okay, Trustee White.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Treasurer Yancho?
Yes.
5-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Under old business, strategic agenda 2025 to 2028 review. Our goal area is infrastructure and preparing for the future. Mr. Limita?
This provides the update, again, from the strategic agenda that the board updated back a month or so ago. And I walked through those topics, pulled them from the notes from the facilitator, Dr. Bender, and kind of put them in the way I read the notes, the infrastructure / prepare for growth. Key objectives that I pulled from those notes were the sanitary, sewer, and paved roads through Bicentennial Park, the 911 EMS response time and service to Grand Blanc Township residents, planning for the future, and long-range vision for the Township campus plan. I put together what I pulled from the key objectives and strategies to accomplish the goals that you guys had. The sanitary, sewer, and paved roads I just sent out. It came in this afternoon from Rowe Engineering with an updated cost and what that looks like. You guys should all have that in your email at this time. It's going to be the estimated cost at $2.1 million to run the sanitary sewer through there and allow us to do the expansions that we want with the increase in restroom facilities and to eliminate the current septic tanks that we have in there. Also include the long-term vision on growth to make sure that the route wouldn't impact future development from an amphitheater or additional sports fields, the open-air pavilion. So all of those, you guys can see the route on that map that I sent out. Secondly, the 911 EMS response time, we continue to have those conversations. We did receive, Chief Rennie received, and I think Supervisor Bennett received it as well, from Tim Jones from the 911, Genesee County 911 Consortium, a review of the state 911 committee. Basically, when we went through all these and they asked for the exclusive agreements, that was back in 2022. We obviously opposed it based upon a legal opinion that we received from Fahey Schultz at the time, amongst a lot of other legal opinions that were provided to the 911 Consortium. I did have a lengthy conversation with Chris Patterson from Fahey Schultz Law Firm last week. It was interesting in that he also represents a municipality up in Bay County that's kind of having a similar but opposite issue with 911. In fact, they had a 4-municipality consortium where they're all paying in to have one municipality run ambulance services for them. 2 of them decided to stop paying, but the 911 dispatch center, their PSAP, continues to dispatch that ambulance from the one municipality anywhere within that 4-member area, because they said they have to dispatch the closest available. And so even though they're no longer receiving any funding from 2 of those municipalities, they continue to get dispatched there, and they say they can't geofence it. They have to send the closest available appropriate ambulance. So interesting conversation with Attorney Patterson. I'll continue to work with him. He is got an interesting take on it. And like I said, it's opposite of ours. They're saying they have to dispatch the closest available. We're saying we have to dispatch the closest available appropriate. And we received from Tim Jones, the director for 911, a opinion or a from the state 911 committee, where they identified, after our conversations in 2022, they looked at it in 2023, and they said that the closest available appropriate response unit would include if there was a contract, an exclusive contract. So appropriate could be expanded to mean that if you had an exclusive contract, like the 13 municipalities within the 31-member consortium have. Interesting in that when we requested an opinion in 2022 from Attorney General Nessel's office through Senator Ruth Johnson, Attorney Nessel's office said that it was a local issue and declined to discuss it. Now 911 is using the state 911 committee, saying that they've reviewed that, and that shows that they're in compliance, that you can consider an exclusive contract to mean an appropriate response. So therefore, they're taking it that the state has authorized Genesee County's response. I guess the board could again now ask Representative Martin or Senator Cherry to again approach Nessel to ask if now it's a state issue, now that the state has weighed in on it as of 2023. As you know, it's up to the Attorney General whether or not they will decide to take a look at it. But I guess it would be worth approaching it one more time, since locally, Prosecutor Layton, as corporate counsel for the county, said it was, not his issue because 911 has their own attorney. Nessel said it's a local issue, not a state issue. But the state's weighed in, and Genesee County 911 is now saying the state has agreed with them and that they've reviewed that they're okay.
Well, we know that it's a policy, but it's not what the state statute says. The state statute flies in the face of that, but Clerk Robertson?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mr. Supervisor. Administrative rules, bulletins, these types of things issued by bureaucracies do not supersede state statute. I think it's interesting that in what they sent to us, and I did read it, okay, they made no mention of the state statute or their interest in amending it in any way, shape, or form. So as far as I'm concerned, and I think this board is correct in saying the state statute is controlling, not an edict from a bureaucracy or within the, was it LARA? Was it Licensing and Regulatory Affairs? Or whichever
Yeah, I mean, they're
department?
actually, they're a standalone
Committee.
Okay.
committee.
Yeah.
But I think we need to continue to work through it, review the legal opinions. But I think that determining financial viability and moving forward with Genesee County 911 should be a topic of discussion for the board. I would like to explore continuing discussing with the city of Fenton, who also has their own PSAP, Public Safety Answering Point, that maybe we discuss what that looks like if we were to become a member of their PSAP and partner with the city of Fenton versus being on the Genesee County 911 Consortium. Also to study and hear a presentation on different response models. Should we be moving towards, providing our own EMS and being part of a different PSAP? I mean, we have to explore every option to make sure that when the decisions that the board makes, you can rest assured for the residents of Grand Blanc Township that we've looked at every available option and made our decisions based on fact-based, what would provide the best service for all.
I believe we do need to explore all options for our residents. And I think the county needs to explore all options as well. I think, the model of having private companies, I believe, is advantageous to taxpayers here in the county, just because we know the cost to operate those EMS units is enormous. And as one of our residents said earlier, to have just one EMS unit isn't going to cut it. I mean, we unfortunately have accidents where it involves 2 or 3 EMS units just with one accident, let alone any other calls that we might receive with the population that we have just here in Grand Blanc Township. But I think we need to look at all the options, what's most cost-effective and what will serve our residents the best, because it is very disheartening to hear from residents when they've had medical emergencies and we aren't able to have our residents, served by an EMS unit when they drastically need it.
I also did have a conversation with Municipal Counsel Anthony Chubb. Asked him to comment on the information that was sent out by Director Tim Jones. And he said it appears that as far as the 911 consortium is concerned, the case is closed until they either get sued over it or, something else changes where the state weighs in on it and stops it. But it would appear that what Tim sent out was basically letting all of us know that as far as they're concerned, the case is closed, that they're in compliance, and based on the comments and the review that they received from the state 911 committee, that it's a done deal. So that'll also have to factor into your discussions moving forward.
Okay.
I am going to continue our conversation with Chris Patterson. He will come to a board meeting. He just wasn't able to come 2 weeks ago. But especially in light of the Bay County thing, and he expected to have some information, to see some movement on that relatively quick. So he'll stay in touch with me on what that looks like. I also forwarded him the information that we got from 911 Director Jones, so he could see what the state 911 committee had said about the appropriate ambulances.
Okay. I think it would be very helpful to have Mr. Patterson here. Fahey and Schultz wrote the opinion for us a couple of years ago when this whole matter of switching from EMS dispatching from 911 based on the closest available unit to dispatching based on who has a contract in a certain community. And that ambulance may be quite a ways away, but they're going to wait, the person that is having a heart attack or whatever, wait until the contracted firm gets there as opposed to the closest ambulance. So they wrote the opinion for us. I believe they also were involved in the original lawsuit in terms of writing an amicus brief. The county lost that lawsuit of a similar nature here in Genesee County. I think the judgment was in excess of $20 million. People ask me, why are we concerned about this? Well, number one, the residents' safety. Number two is the liability, but that we hold as a municipality, because if we're sued to that extent, Grand Blanc Township will end up paying a big portion of that lawsuit judgment.
Jumping ahead, planning for the future, the board requested a joint board and planning commission meeting. We'll set something up and make sure that we can, how we've done it in the past is had it before a board meeting, like 1 hour before the board meeting, have the planning commission come in. We hold that joint meeting and then move topics for discussion, master plan, ready for long-range growth, zoning. There was discussion about flexibility for lot size to approve uses, which would fall into the chicken conversation as well. Right now, we say 10 acres. Maybe that's part of the conversation, is 10 acres is too big. We can, have the planning commission and have that conversation between the township board and planning commission. Maybe 5 acres is appropriate. But I think the topic never goes away. We talk about it and have people in front of us every 1 to 2 years. It was a big topic of conversation back at the master plan update in 2020 and 2021. It was kind of like the RV parking and driveway issues. It's equally divided. Half the people don't want their neighbors to have chickens, half the people want to have chickens that we heard from. I think it's going to continue that way, but I think notwithstanding what Treasurer Yancho said, maybe it's a lot size that we have to look at and see what the residents are feeling. There could be a change. I mean, it's only been a few years since we adopted that master plan. It wasn't a big topic of discussion, but I know it was discussed. We had over 700 people participate in that master plan, and we didn't hear a lot of the pushback on lot sizes for domestic chickens. But it's probably worth raising when we get to that zoning. And then also the board talked about mobile home parks, and is there something we can do to help the mobile home parks? And I think that's a great topic of discussion. As you know, the few that we have, we've got one in particular that's been a bit of a issue or a problem, and we've been trying to work through that. So I think that's great. Also, township meetings with the Genesee County Road Commission staff. It was mentioned about the long-range traffic study based on anticipated growth patterns for commercial and residential growth. I think we need to continue to do that. As a township, we don't own or have any responsibility for roads, but certainly we need to continue to apply pressure and share the information, or we see where our growth is coming from. With a changing community, if the mega site was to go into Mundy Township, what would that look like? We're going to have another push for more residential growth, probably more commercial growth. Are we doing the appropriate planning on our roadways? So I think that would be very helpful. And as we talked about the board forming your committees to weigh in with the county, this one could be a very important one where we get a chance to influence the road commission. Also, sidewalk funding and locations for the north end corridor was brought up. I think that's important. Supervisor Bennett and I are both attending a symposium tomorrow in regards to the Mott Foundation and all the municipalities in Genesee County about how we can expand multimodal transportation, increasing sidewalks and multimodal pathways. We'll report back to the board, but that's in Flint. Public will be invited at least to the second half, and we'll report back to the board on what that looks like after we hear more from the Mott Foundation. But it looks like the Mott Foundation is prepared to generously support even further than they already have. Thank you for the grants they gave us for Complete and Embry Cook and the Perry Pathways announced last week. But that's exciting, and it goes hand in hand with what the board selected. And finally, long-range vision for the township campus plan was brought up, studying location of a new township general office. We do have some old plans back from 2006, but it's worth revisiting. It was discussed to study the reuse of our current office building, potentially public access to walking trails or recreational opportunities on the property, and then a possible community center in the future. That's what was identified again as for infrastructure, the major goal areas and some of the key objectives and strategies for getting us there.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Lehman on infrastructure? Yes, Mr. White.
When we look at the long-range vision for the township plan, are we also going to, as sort of an alternative, look at how much is it going to cost to essentially keep this building with updates, and what a dollar amount would be for that as well? Is that going to be part of it?
Yeah. When I went through this, I don't know, 15 years ago or so at a previous municipality, and we ended up building a new township hall with a community center attached to it. But to do it right, you want to look at all your alternatives. We look at those old plans. We know the cost of building something new. We have invested because we know we're going to be in this building, and we've invested in the last 5 years, a pretty decent sum to bring us up to some modern facilities. We know that we've got some HVAC issues and some things like that, but will this continue to suit our needs? So I think that has to enter into the equation of, what's the most cost effective, is continue to use this building or to build a new one designed, to meet your future needs. Will this adequately service for the next 20 or 30 years? I think that comes out of the study.
And one more question about the $2.1 million estimate. When I look at the estimate, it says it doesn't include, well, we have the land, so I'm not concerned about that. Bonding, legal, or engineering costs. Percentage-wise, what are those likely to add to the $2.1 million?
Hard to say until you're at that point when we go to bond, because bond costs are, flexible on a $2 million bond. I mean, bond costs, just the bond issuance costs, are probably going to be somewhere in the $30,000 range, then depending on what the percentage is. And then engineering costs, generally engineering, when you get into the actual design engineering, construction engineering of it, could be 7%, 10% of the overall project.
So 2.1 is not really what it is. I mean, that's the physical aspect, but it's going to be higher than that too.
It could be less. I mean, it's a probable cause looking at it from until you get in, and then you find out that we've got some issues with soils, or we got some other issues that come up, or we hit it at a real good bid time when projects are slower and it comes in at considerably less. But when you're trying to put the probable cause together to just say, what does it look like if we were to move this forward as we're starting to plan, especially with the millage question out there, and how do we spend those funds? It's good to know that just the probable cost of $2.1 million just in expected cost for that, because that might change how you guys consider your priorities. Is that sewer as important as we thought it was? There could be shifting priorities once we know that it's going to be a price tag of $2 million, more or less.
So,
Brown?
just back on, EMS. So I know last week I was the individual that proposed talking about, having some sort of short-term solution, considering it seems like at the state level or county level, this has been an extremely long, drawn-out process. And quite frankly, I'm newer to politics, obviously, so I'm uncomfortable with the length of time that it's taking, which is why I proposed looking at what we can do internally. So I guess my question would be, what are other communities around us doing, to combat this issue in the short term? To kind of, like I guess you said, put a Band-Aid on it, makes sense, but I mean, that's essentially what, we're talking about.
So, and so to be clear, Grand Blanc Township actually is much better, has much better coverage than a lot of the municipalities. Most of these, exclusive contracts came out of out-county municipalities. And the reason being is because the farther out you go from a population center, you're going to have, less ambulance service out there. And that when you move out there, when you move out, to the corners, farther out, you're going to have less services. And that holds true with emergency response and ambulance service, quite frankly. And the reason behind that being is because they operate on low margins, but it's got to be volume, right? Who's got volume? Well, Grand Blanc Township with 40,000 people and a major health center with Henry Ford Ascension here makes a big, difference, because we actually have, they're running patients constantly. We also have kind of a niche market on a lot of assisted living facilities, which tend to have a lot of ambulance calls. So Grand Blanc Township, we used to say, just take a ride around the 36 square mile perimeter and count how many ambulances you see that are sitting off to the side or waiting for a call, or they're at the hospital. It's not like we are suffering the same fate as some of those. So we certainly are empathetic. We understand why some of these were like, will I get better service if I sign an exclusive contract? And if that works for them, hallelujah. Our thing is how they dispatch, what they're going to dispatch the closest available. Here, they're going to dispatch the closest available. We don't have an exclusive agreement or a preferred provider or anything else. You call 911 in Grand Blanc Township, and they look on the AVL automatic vehicle locator, and they send the closest available. So it hasn't really changed for Grand Blanc Township, other than the more exclusive contracts you sign, my fear would be that there could be less rigs available. That's why we talked with 911 about what's the optimal number, what's the perfect number for us to have of ambulances available at any given time of the day. And I think that our shorter-term solution is to drive that question, right? The other question for us and why we got involved in this is really a question of liability. We're a member of that 31-member consortium, and if the worst-case scenario happened and, there's an ambulance sitting in the parking lot, but they call what they deem to be the appropriate one because it's got an exclusive contract, and it takes 20 minutes to get there instead of the guy who was parked out there and could have been in a minute, the family finds out there's a tragic loss, a lawsuit happens, then we'd be concerned because we're a member of that consortium. So we got to continue to approach it from that liability standpoint because that's our concern. But I think as far as the service level goes, Grand Blanc Township is okay. That having been said, how do we improve? Right now, Chief Gent can tell you that he's got 5 in the medical first responder. Is that 5, 6 right now? So we have 6 going through medical first responder training. That's being funded by the fireworks money, and so all Chief had to buy was their books. So we're moving forward to get our firefighters, all as medical first responder certifications. Why is that important? Our police department does a great job. They're first on scene in a lot of places, but our firefighters also, in some of these calls, they get there and they at least can start to treat before the ambulance arrives.
Yeah.
We have a short-term solution as far as service level.
Yeah, I love that.
Chief Rennie, if you come up just for a second, our police cars, what type of first aid do they carry? Because I know you guys are obviously, are probably at the scene first before anybody even.
Yeah, we got some basic medical needs, but I think where you're going with that is each car has an AED, automatic defibrillator in there. So just in case if somebody does go down in a heart attack, or if we get dispatched to a full arrest, we generally are the first ones on scene to where we could provide that medical care, and we do. And then we just simply follow the prompts on the AED. And we have had some success with that as well.
That's great.
All right. Okay, we'll continue to, I'm sorry, Mr. Yancho?
It seems like the quickest way to get a final resolution would come from the Attorney General's office. In order to get them on board, we heard about talking to legislators, Martin and Cherry. Do we need to have some sort of a resolution to ask them to get involved, or?
We actually have requested one in the past, and that we did get a response that basically it's a local issue, but as Mr. Lehman had mentioned, we could certainly request it again through our new representatives, and I don't know that we need a resolution, but
We can just send it through, but I think what you'll see is, the AG could wait a year. There's no time frame as far as their response beyond it. It won't be quick, I can assure you that.
we asked for a declaratory ruling. Basically, the Attorney General would issue a ruling on this is what this law actually states, and that's what we were requesting. We could request that again. Robertson?
Yeah, I'm glad, I remember when we approached Senator Johnson, and I'm glad that we did it then. I think we should do the same through either Representative Martin or Cherry again. But I also want to say that perhaps we also need to re-engage the Corporation Counsel's office at the county level.
The county corporation?
County Corporation Council, because I didn't, let's assume for the sake of discussion that Attorney General Nessel is correct. Well, then, and that's a big assumption, I'll say, but then if she says it's a local issue, then doesn't that compel our Corporation Council to say that this is a matter that that he has responsibility for in terms of providing proper legal counsel to county government? Both of them have said, well, it's not our affair, okay? Both of them can't be right. At least my common sense judgment tells me they both can't be right.
I think you'll get the same response we got last time, is asked and answered, and 911 Consortium employs their own counsel, so he is not counsel for 911.
Well, we may be able to employ the help of some of the county commissioners as well in asking for an opinion. So, okay, we will continue to pursue that issue as well. And we will report back our request to have those letters sent. Okay.
Yeah, well, I'll reach out and get that ball moving.
Next, we have
Sorry,
the...
Supervisor, apologize.
Yes.
The last thing I had on infrastructure, the Planning Commission, maybe this is more for you, Mike, so I apologize, but I would like to see what are other municipalities doing, how they are regulating the question of chickens. Because when I think about it, if I have 10 acres or 9 acres and you tell me, the rule's 10, what is truly the distinction there? And how does that fall at 9, 8, 7, 5? Like, I can understand me not having it. I have a half an acre, right? That'd be terrible. But someone with 5, 8, 7, 9, I think it's worth us just seeing what other municipalities are doing, and if it's something that, we could approach the Planning Commission about.
We can, I can tell you that is all over the board. It depends on what your community, like where you want to go with it, right? So you can have cities, you can have Ann Arbor with backyard chickens on small lots. You have some that are 10 acres like ours. It's all over. It's where, your community standards are going to be. I can find you examples from every single lot size that you want, quite frankly. It really becomes, again, like when we discussed it with master plan meetings, how important of it is an issue. You're going to, like I said, you're going to have a deeply divided. You're going to find it on both sides. You're going to be people who are like, absolutely, I don't want my neighbors to have chickens. And then you're going to find people who are like, it's just, look, you won't even know I have chickens back here. I'm raising for a few eggs and that's it. And I think both of those people are right. You have the right to say, like, on my parcel, I don't want your chickens, butted up to my property. But can you make rules that make it palatable? I think that's where the board and the planning commission come together. Again, if you're looking at what other communities are doing, I'm telling you right now, it's all over the board, right? It's just going to be all over the board. But it's what your community standards are and where you want to go. The biggest thing, I think, is really listen to the people, making sure you reach out to as many people as possible. If you find out that the mood has shifted and 70% of the people are pro-chicken on a 2-acre lot, then that would probably inform your planning commission's decision as well as your board's decision, because you're going to be responsive to the people. It wasn't that high when we've had this conversation in the past, I can tell you that much. But again, times change. Inflation happened. Price of eggs went up. Maybe people have more of a tolerance for neighborhood chickens because they can buy cheaper eggs from their neighbor. I mean, things change in communities. People move in, move out.
Well, and the other thing to consider too is that, we're becoming more of an urban community all the time. And the density is increasing, but, the complaints that we received over the RV issue, I know Damon wasn't here for that whole 5-year battle, or maybe 10 years, over RVs and whether or not they should be parked in driveways along with boats and those types of things. And we struck a compromise to, I think, basically alleviate the headaches that our code enforcement were having. But I see this as very similar in that, depending on who you talk to, and how many acres, can go either way, so. Okay, yes, Mr. White?
Briefly, this is my opining on the chickens. We identified a couple years ago sort of our peer communities elsewhere, Delta, Meridian, and Independence Townships, and they all have much more chicken-friendly ordinances than we do. Some of them, I mean, you can have it on a quarter acre. Now, maybe that's not the route we want to go, but I mean, it's definitely not a 10-acre minimum requirement for any of those peer communities. So I definitely think we need to update this.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we have one of the biggest acreages.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? Okay, moving on to.
Item 8A, Mr. Supervisor, under new business.
We're going to have a presentation first under old business regarding Parks and Recreation Department.
Forgive me, I'm sorry.
Regarding the efforts to enhance community engagement through programming and events. So
So tonight, we're going to have Senya Limata and Danielle, Parks and Recreation are you guys, and we talked about this 2 weeks ago, you guys had chosen as one of your strategic plans, goals, is to enhance community engagement. And these guys have been working on something for a few months, so it was very prescient of them to be able to be like, hey, these guys are probably going to want to have community engagement as part of their strategic plan, and they were already putting it together because, as we discussed 2 weeks ago, things are changing in recreational programming. And so they've been looking at some ways that they could potentially impact our community, get more community engagement, and they want to show you their thoughts and see if this is in line with what the board had in mind when you talked about enhanced community engagement. And without further ado.
Good evening. So like Dennis said, this was something Danielle and I had been looking at, some community engagement ideas. So we were excited to see that it was something the board identified as well on the strategic plan. Why we are looking at making some changes, the programming numbers for us have been dropping. That's not unique to Grand Blanc Township. That's something that's been identified since COVID kind of across the board in parks departments. Just with changing after COVID, everyone was seeing their program numbers, athletic leagues kind of dropping. Another thing that we've dealt with is some of the athletic leagues that we used to run are now being run by outside organizations. They still use Creasy Bicentennial Park to run these leagues. They're just separate organizations. For example, youth football runs flag football, Little League runs baseball and softball, but they're also utilizing Bicentennial Park. We also have a lack of indoor space. It makes it tough for us to run a diverse catalog of indoor programming without that community center, without that designated indoor space. And we always want to try to keep our event and program costs low for the residents, which means we are constantly seeking sponsorship money from, a lot of the same businesses year after year. And there are also people in the community, different organizations, different sports teams that are also looking for sponsorship dollars. Another reason that we are looking at doing this is to reach more of our community members. Like I said, with the lower program numbers, we'd love to find more activities or opportunities to reach even more members. And then lastly, we want to find ways to keep young adults in this community. Some of the things that we'll talk about under community enrichment is the Township Youth Council, health and wellness, inclusive GBT, the Grand Initiative. Under community engagement, we're going to talk about more sharing our story, sharing the story of the community members as well, seeking input from our community members, continuing to market our events and programs that we offer. And then under community events and facilities, we are going to look at some of the facility or rentals at Bicentennial Park, especially the tournaments that we host, and then some of our large-scale events as well.
In an effort to get our youth more involved locally, have a stronger sense of belonging and connectedness to the community, and hopefully stay in our community as they grow older, we want to introduce a Township Youth Council. This council will actually be broken down into 3 levels. The first taking place in the school system in upper elementary and middle school classes, where we're teaching them about their true local government and what goes on within Grand Blanc Township. That second level would happen in the high school, and hopefully in these meetings where students are learning more about their local government, but not just what it's doing, but how they can be involved and hopefully getting that hands-on experience with your different committees. The third level is our young adults, and that's where they're taking everything they learned and now they're implementing it in our community. Maybe they're running programs, running events, they're speaking up at meetings and being heard, all in an effort to keep them around, keep them connected, and make them feel like they belong. We want to work to make Grand Blanc Township a much more inclusive place. Through that, our first step would be celebrating cultures. Grand Blanc Township has a wide variety of cultures, many of which a lot of us are not very familiar with. So it would be on us to connect with those different cultural groups, different churches, different organizations, work with them to not only learn about their culture, but hear how they want to be celebrated and how they want to be presented to the community. I know the idea of an international food festival has been brought up in the past, and if that's something those groups would be interested in, we're absolutely open to exploring that. Another way to be more inclusive would be working on job skills for our community members with disabilities. So hopefully partnering with the ISD, some of our other community groups, working with those individuals with disabilities and getting them into some of our seasonal positions, which historically we've had some trouble filling, and also getting them into future internships. Our final point is getting our township to be Culture City certified. This certification is focused on people who struggle with different sensory needs. So all of our staff would be trained in working with individuals who have those different sensory needs, how to better accommodate them within our spaces. They would provide us resources to make those interactions better for everyone involved, and we would be on their website and app. So someone who does have stronger needs that maybe can't just comfortably walk into the township to get business done can look at that app, see that we're on there, and see that this is a space that is able to accommodate them so they can get their day-to-day work done. The Grand Initiative is a variety of parts similar to our programming. The first part is that we want to offer free workshops to the community. Our community is very into health and wellness programming, learning daily living skills, cooking, yoga, those things that are just enlighten our everyday life. We want to offer those free by partnering with local groups who would either volunteer to lead those workshops or supplement that cost so we can pay the instructor to come in and reach community members. We would also continue working with police and fire on different initiatives that they already have in place, such as camp safety, future women in law enforcement, station tours, and expanding some of those offerings if the departments feel that that's something they're interested in. We have already started meetings with both the police department and the fire department to see how we can better work together in the future. We would love to implement Live, Learn, and Engage, a civics education program. This multi-week program would be headed by a different department each week, explaining what the department does, how they interact with the township, and how the township can interact with them. And finally, we have ChatGPT. This is very similar to Coffee with a Cop, but instead we're having department heads there. And the community can come into a very low-pressure situation, chat with the different department heads, ask questions without having to schedule a meeting or come into that more formal situation.
Some more things under community engagement that we're looking at. Emailing a monthly newsletter. Currently, we do kind of bi-weekly with our parks events and programs that we have upcoming. We'd be looking at expanding that and also then making printed copies available at Senior Center Township Hall. For those who don't utilize email, they would have the ability to pick up a printed copy. To continue to promote Grand Blanc Township as a place to live, work, and play, we want to share the story of our community members, share the story of our business owners in Grand Blanc Township, share things, why they chose Grand Blanc Township, what they love about Grand Blanc Township, where they love to eat here, and things like that. And then same with business owners, why they chose to open their business in Grand Blanc Township. We also want to promote the events and happenings in the surrounding areas, because people who choose Grand Blanc Township to live, it's not just because of what we offer in Grand Blanc Township, but also the surrounding areas, all of the different amenities that we have here. Continuing on, we want to do a better job of sharing our story as well, highlighting our facilities and staff, who we are and what we're working towards, celebrate staff both internally and externally, continue to promote the open positions with Grand Blanc Township when we have openings, share about the culture here, all the fantastic benefits we have and things like that, And lastly, we really want to drive home education, explaining to people the differences between the services we offer versus Genesee County. I know we get it all the time. We'll get calls for physicians in Rust Park when those are operated by the city. So we just want to continue to do a good job of educating the public about, what we truly oversee and just make sure that they know where they can go to get their questions answered. And then lastly, looking at community events and facilities. I know that we had handed out previously the sponsorship booklet that Michaela helps put together, and it has all of the events for the year for Grand Lake Township. So that includes, fire, general office, parks, everybody. When we go into businesses, we want to have an idea of all of the events that we run, have a good idea of, setup, what the day looks like, and our plan is then when we're talking to these businesses, we'll be able to truly explain the event, have all of the details at hand so we can continue to drive our community partnerships with these different businesses and organizations. And that goes into adjusting our community partnership model. We know every business that we talk to doesn't necessarily have sponsorship dollars to give us, but they would love to work with us and promote our events, promote our programs. They just can't give us that dollar, but they would love to, volunteer or find other ways to work with us. And so we would love to form more partnerships with these businesses and organizations where we can elevate their business, share different things that they have, whether it's a restaurant or a store, share what they have going on, and then they'll be able to do the same, promote the events and happenings and that we're offering. That also goes into my last point of marketing Bicentennial Park to attract new tournaments. We're currently working with Grand Blanc Little League to host a Little League state tournament this July. We're looking at, going forward, putting together a welcome packet for all of the teams, the tournament directors as well, that when we are working in the community, forming these partnerships, we're going to be able to include them in this welcome packet that will have, details about their store, where you can find it. So then when there's downtime for the tournament, we're promoting all of the activities that are in Grand Blanc Township. Go check out the bowling alleys, go to US 23 Drive-In, and just really trying to find even more people to bring them to this community and elevate all of the businesses that we have here in Grand Blanc Township. So this is kind of everything that we had. We hope to hear from you guys if you like kind of these ideas, if they align with what you were looking for community engagement. And if you have any questions, we're happy to answer them.
You're going to have all this done in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, that's the plan, yep.
I think it's an immense task, but I think, connecting with the community with our Parks and Rec is critical. I attended a conference a few days ago, Impact Genesee, and it was talking about a number of things we can do to improve our county. But one of the things that the county is looking at, and they've been looking at for quite a while, is a sports facility. I don't know if any of you have been to the sports facilities that would be similar. I forget the one down by Brighton, maybe somebody. The Legacy Center is just mammoth. What do they have on the side? 8 football fields or something like that. I mean, it's just monstrous, the buildings that they have. But they're looking for a location for something like that here in Genesee County. Evidently, they do have an investor that's interested in helping do that. But one of the things I encouraged them was that let's not compete with existing infrastructure that municipalities have already invested in or individual businesses have invested in. And let's work with them. I've seen a number of businesses in the past where somebody, the municipality is in competition with the local business, and one of them is not going to survive. And it's a little bit of an unfair advantage with using tax dollars. But the bottom line is I think you're on the right path with working with, and we've got so many great recreational assets in the area. Whether it's the golf courses, the bowling center, the roller rink. Even, if we draw a circle around Grand Blanc Township at 10-mile radius, it goes outside of Oakland County, right? And just south in Oakland County, we have the recreational facility right off Holly Road that has, all the motorcycles and trucks and everything else. I forget what it's called, but it's basically an Oakland County park for RV, off-road vehicles. And there's so much that could be tied into that. There's really no hotels in that area, which we have the hotels and restaurants here, but I think it's capitalizing on the visitors we have coming to the park and introducing them to our community is key, because And I think one of the things that people need to consider when they're looking at millages or what have you supporting our park is that it helps their economic development. I mean, not only do people move to communities where the parks are great, but it also can help support local businesses with our tournaments that we bring in. Anybody else have any thoughts on Mr. Brown?
Yeah, so obviously, I made it no secret, one of the reasons I moved to Grand Blanc was for Parks and Recs, so I appreciate all that you all are doing. There were two specific events I really liked, or ideas you had. The first was the Township Youth Council. Bennett, myself, and our chief here, we participated in Crossroads Cafe, which basically the high schoolers are doing a capstone of some nature where they have to have political discussions. And some of the ideas that we threw around were, how to interact with your local government. So I love, you all incorporating the high school because there's already some of that happening. So if we can integrate there, I think that would be easy. But this Township Youth Council, I'd love to, be a part of it. Anything I can do, to help and aid and support you in that, I will. Now, I did just turn 30, so I'm not sure youth. I don't know how long I have to say that I'm young.
Honorary memberships.
Appreciate that.
What was the other one, Damon? You said two of them.
Yeah, the second one was, I really like the idea of the International Food Festival. I think that's something that we have, talked about in the past. Probably would be cost efficient if, people are bringing things in themselves. So again, anything I can do to help out with those in particular, really excited to see what you all put together. So thank you.
Mr. White?
My questions are about the programming. What are we doing to get people to come back each year? I've done kickball for many years. We had 26 teams in 2022. This year we have 16. So what are we doing to try to get people to re-register each year? Because I register our team. I don't get an email or anything to even remind us that, oh, hey, kickball's starting. I'll bet we lose a few people each year who just don't register oh crap, and then it's too late and they don't get their team in order. So, how can we do better and things like that? It's way easier to keep somebody than to get somebody new.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the hard part this year is we switched over our registration system. So everyone who had been doing past programs where we had all of their information in that database, we just moved over to a new one. So for kickball example, being able to email all my teams from last year, it was in that old registration system. We also, with the new system, have the email database. Something we've identified with Civic Rec is when you sign up, it makes you select that you would like to get emails from us. And I think that not everyone notices it. So a lot of people don't select that. And unfortunately, that means they're not getting any communication from us. And Civic Rec identified the only way to update that is if we go in there manually for every single account and update it. So it's just been something we're working through. But that is kind of our main way of communicating through that email database with people. So hopefully something we're fixing going forward. And then we've also started to explore, outside of Civic Rec, other email blast softwares where maybe we could kind of get it set up where it would go out on that weekly basis, really to market all of our programs that way. So definitely something we're working through, switch it over to that new system.
And we don't offer soccer anymore, right?
No, AYSO and DCFC are the main soccer programming in the area. They both run leagues. We have worked with DCFC to try to get a rec league going. That's just partnership with them. Hopefully something we can continue to explore. And then we do summer camps for soccer in the.
But what about for the older guys like us who used to play?
Adult
I've
soccer.
played a bicentennial and the field isn't great, but I know they said it went to Genesee Fieldhouse, but Genesee Fieldhouse has basically gotten rid of doing their adult. So there's really just nothing around anymore for us.
Former soccer player myself, and from what I'm seeing, all of our common leagues around here, thinking even back to Soccer Zone, the signups just aren't the same. And what we're seeing a lot in all of these positions is that the market's saturated. Not necessarily with that kind of programming, but just constant programming. So these long-term things are getting less signups because people can't commit to showing up for 8 weeks for a full session. It's something, though, that if we had interest, absolutely, we could offer that again. I would jump on board right away.
Yeah,
Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I actually got approached about doing a adult flag football program. I've had, a lot of people, approach me about that. Is that something you all have considered? And then kind of to Paul's point, if we did shorten the season, because I wanted to do kickball myself, but, it was a very long season. So I think that was some of the reasons why, my group and I opted out. But if we could shorten it, I'd love to, participate.
Yeah, when it comes to adult sports too, something that we're slowly working towards is offering clinics first. Looking at Flint Rugby Club was one of them that we reached out to, of maybe having a day-long adult clinic, letting people try it out, and then seeing from there, like, okay, you were at this clinic, did you enjoy it? Would you be interested in a league? And it's still just a matter of getting everyone to have the same dates available, but we've been exploring it that way as well.
Yes, Mr. Yancho.
I'm not sure if I missed it, but I don't think I heard anything about gardening. Today I was out at the Losi Center, and they have a beautiful community garden. And lots of people are interested in growing their own food, things like that, but they may not have the acreage to do it, or the equipment to till up some soil and get started. So that would be one of the things that I would recommend that you might investigate. Another thing was, when Supervisor Bennett talked about the off-road track south of us, another event that's south of us, and not quite as far away, is the Renaissance Festival. And those people, they are into it. And that's only on the weekends. So if you could put together something for a Friday or a Wednesday or something that would attract those people, I think you might be able to have a successful event.
Absolutely, that's a great idea.
Coming from an industry that did a lot of sports marketing for participation sports, it has been a struggle in the past several years. Doesn't mean we can't be successful at it, just means there is a lot of competition for individuals. I mean, years ago, we didn't have things like Netflix and Hulu and basically a whole cadre of entertainment choices at home where you don't even have to leave your living room. And so we have to appeal to people's wanting to be more social. There's also some opportunities, I think, too, because we have a lot of people who are working from home who are isolated from really interacting with others, and I think they're looking for some opportunities to interact. The other thing is that while probably most of us here are pretty mobile and would be interested in playing soccer or flag football, I think also maybe some of the gentler type things like the gardening and maybe things that aren't so physical, too, I think would appeal to many, whether it's age or ability, what have you. So I think we need to be cognizant of those type of needs too. But I think, engaging the community is key for all of our departments, really. But the budget for your department's based on involvement, right? So it's even more critical that we engage the public. And I think the sponsorship thing too, we've got to figure out how we do that, because I know we're going to them for the beautification efforts that Ms. Roberts is trying to do. Parks and Rec is going to them, our fire department, police department for their different events. So somehow coordinating that effort too, so that we're not running into each other on those types of things too. But I think, it's going to take a while to get all this together, but I think you're going in the right direction. Okay, well, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing the progress. Anything to add, Mr. Limita?
No, I think that, again, a lot of ideas, and it's about, it's going to evolve as we go, and just like all strategic plans, we'll see what works, what doesn't work. But it's really, as long as we continue to chase that same goal about community engagement, what can we do to expand our programming efforts, to bring in more people? These were all great suggestions, that, again, we have to throw it out there, gauge interest, and push it through, because we have that gem of a park, right? And I think when people get out there and see it, and there's no doubt that we had so many years of deferred maintenance, We've done an amazing job of catching up over the last 10 years with the millage funds, and what we have planned for the next 10 years, nothing short of phenomenal what we can do. But it doesn't make any sense if we're not bringing in the participation. So I love the direction they're going in. I think they put a lot of thought into it. They handed out some things for you guys that kind of show what other communities are doing. Take a look at the handouts that they gave you, because those are some great examples of just what some other communities have done. They did a lot of research. They pulled a lot of websites up, and I think that'll help us. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. You can take a look at, what other people are doing and find out what was successful in their community. They've gotten more active also with M-Parks, so that organization, it's not just Grand Blanc Township on our own. They made some really good connections, Sterling Heights and some other areas where they've reached out. And I think that's also very, very helpful is being able to have those conversations with other recreation professionals. What works, what worked in your community, how did you keep your involvement up? But it's really across the state. We have less participation than we had. And part of that was the impact. M-Parks will tell you after COVID, we lost some of that momentum. Yet we had more people using our outdoor recreational facilities than ever before, but we lost some of the participation. So how do we reinvent that? How do we pull people back in, and then they remember that, oh yeah, this is fun, this is a good activity, this is something I want to be a part of.
And I think, we're a health-conscious community. I mean, you look at, we got the Henry Ford Athletic Center, we've got Planet Fitness, we've got other gyms in the area, Snap Fitness, what have you. That also probably could be partnered with Warwick, which they've got not only their golf, but they've got, other activities there too that involve them, so, and cross-promote even maybe, so. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to new business, the board will consider Resolution 25-14 terminating the Green Knoll Special Assessment District. Mr. Limita?
I think it's self-explanatory, but Director Cooley held the meeting for the Green Knolls subdivision. We had a little bit of a fiasco with, it was going to be 200 feet, is that correct?
Yeah.
200 feet on the approach, and then just between the engineering that was done, pre-engineering that was done and what we anticipated to be, the bids went out, it came in considerably higher, so Director Cooley just had the meeting last week with the Green Knolls residents, and Al, you want to explain what happened there?
Yeah, so this local road agreement goes back quite far. It goes back to actually when I first hired on back in October, November 23, I think is when the board had approved this original one. There was a turnover. I think Jeff Sears had originally started this SAD district. Richard Hill had retired from the road commission, so there was some confusion that happened. The first bid went out wrong, come back. We had to have it rebid. Like Dennis said, it come back more than double what the original estimates were. So we held that meeting with the community. We sent letters out, had them come in. Overwhelmingly, the vote was to reject that and hopefully to have this resolution be passed to dissolve the SAD district. And what we had looked at, we had a couple of gentlemen, Todd and Jared from the road commission here with us as well during that meeting. They had produced some new quotes, and what the subdivision is looking at is going further with a paving of the entire subdivision. So it would be like a 3-inch mill and fill to pave the entire subdivision. So it seemed to be that's where the majority of the residents of that subdivision wanted to go forward with. So that's why we're presenting this resolution to the board tonight.
Okay. Any question, Mr. White?
What exactly happened? The road commission screwed up their initial bidding and had to go back out?
Yeah, so the original bid went out, and it went out different than what the local road agreement stated. They went out as like a full reconstruct of that first 200 feet. And actually, I don't even think they bid the first 200 feet. I think they thought because it was the $30,000 was the original agreement, it was, Greg, was that about 35 feet is what that first bid was? So they didn't even bid it for the full 200 feet. So, when we seen those bids, I went back to them and told them this doesn't even match what the local road agreement is. How do I present this to anybody? So then that's when it got rebid out for the full 200 feet, and that's when the costs come back quite extravagant.
Well, for what it's worth, the road commission has asked us to help them with educating other communities on how we do our SADs. They feel as though we do them the best, but sounds like maybe the road commission will even take note on a few of the things. But we're going to present to them how we handle our.
And I will say, they had some change over there, and Todd Bigler is the design department engineer now, and he's done a really good job of working with us on trying to get all this stuff worked out and figure out, so we have some really good estimates going forward, and they've worked with us greatly since this change has happened.
Okay. Well, does somebody care to make a motion?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Supervisor, if that's
Okay.
appropriate.
Motion by Clerk Roberts, support by Treasurer Yancho.
Supported by Yancho, support, okay. Treasurer Yancho.
Yes.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
5-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Item B, the board will consider a motion to approve the annual renewal of the Trimble Unity Maintain Elite, formerly known as CityWorks AMS, system for $40,000 and authorize Township Superintendent to execute all related contracts and documents and purchase orders. Mr. Cooley?
Yes, so this is our asset management program. This has all of our assets, the water system, the sewer system, some of the building assets within it. This is how our water and sewer technicians get their work orders, their daily work. There is a slight increase from last year, and what had happened is there's a system within their system. It's called an API system, and you need that to connect in with, say, our BSNA or our Beacon system or any of the other software systems. Before you had to pay for those individually, we went to this Unity program, and we have unlimited APIs, so we can connect with all the different software programs we have, so they would integrate in together. It helps with the different things that we have for like our fleet management program we're trying to get underway and all that. So I think that increase in that cost was right around $5,000 or $6,000 a year for us to have those unlimited APIs.
Okay.
Is the motion in order, Mr. Supervisor?
Yes.
I'll make that motion on item 8B.
Supported by Mr. Brown.
Supported by Brown.
Correct.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Treasurer Yancho?
Yes.
Trustee White?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Supervisor Bennett?
Yes.
5-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Item C, the board will consider a motion to approve the annual census R&I hosting renewal fee for $18,280 and the annual census analytics enhanced hosting renewal fee for $15,960 from Aetna Supply totaling $34,240 and authorize the township superintendent to execute all related purchase orders.
Good evening.
Boggs?
Good evening. This is our annual renewal from Census. This is the software that allows us to remote read the meter reads and then the analytics side to process the data and perform customer service. We're underway with a current meter changeout program. Eventually this will go away. We'll be with the totally switched over to a different vendor.
I was wondering, okay. Any questions or concerns, Mr. Boggs or Mr. Cooley?
This
Mr.
is
Yancho?
somewhat not related, but how is our installation of meters going?
It's going, it's ramping up. We've had some reprogramming of converting the multiplier. We read in 100 cubic feet. We're trying to get down to a different resolution. So with our current vendor, they were reprogramming the meters that could be reprogrammed over the air. So with our consultants working on trying to get that data into the billing system, there was some hangups, but we're finally getting that underway. And most of the reprogramming has done, so we can ramp up of changing more readers on the existing meters that don't need to be replaced, and then we're still ramping up with the full exchange outs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, someone care to make the motion?
Motion.
Mr. Brown makes the motion regarding this,
Mr. White had his hand up.
supported by Mr. White.
Okay, on item 8C, Supervisor Bennett,
Yes.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Treasurer Yancho,
Yes.
Trustee White,
Yes.
myself, yes. 5-0, motion passes.
Thank you. Future agenda items, Mr. Limita?
We'll continue to work through the board's strategic agenda till we've gone through each one of the goal areas. So you'll see the update and where the key strategies and objectives are on the next round. And I think after that, we'll have gotten through the goal areas that the board has selected to move forward for the next 4 years.
Okay. Mr. White, anything with regard to ZBA?
On the ZBA anymore.
ZBA hasn't met.
Okay,
They'll be meeting next week.
okay. Clerk Robertson, anything with regard?
Nothing to report, sir.
Treasurer Yancho?
Nothing.
Okay, just a few items that I have here. The Impact Genesee, which took place a few days ago, was a day-long conference with regard to how do we assist the economic development here in Genesee County, and they focused on a number of issues. One was the expansion of broadband, and when we say that, what we're talking about is actually what would it look like if we actually had fiber going right to people's homes and right to the business rather than having, copper going to their house. And the speed with which we'd be able to increase things, businesses. They brought in a professor from Tennessee where there is a community that they have done that, and they looked at the economic impact, and it was dramatic. So if we have the opportunity, I know that several of us here at the Township office have met with individuals that have been interested in doing that in our community. And we'll see if they come through with that, but it could be a huge boon for us. I'm not sure they're looking at the whole county, but I know they are looking at Grand Blanc Township. One of the other areas of consideration is housing, that we know that there is a housing shortage and what we can do to address that. One of the things that I know is happening here in our township is that we have quite a few homes that are going to be built in the next year. At least that's what our developers are telling us. These are single-family homes, and the county is even working with us on a parcel that they own that they would like to see us work with them to help develop it for residential housing. One of the areas, I think, has about 80 lots alone that an individual wants to develop and has, I think, all 80 sold. One of the other areas was a sports facility, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, that could be a huge win for people coming to our area for tourism, what have you, filling our restaurants, hotels, but also benefiting this area, which kind of has a legacy when it comes to sports. There isn't too many professional sports that Genesee County doesn't have somebody participating in. Everything from the Olympics with Grant Fisher to you name it. We touch all sports. So it was a great event. One of the things that we also talked about was the mega site over in Mundy Township and what advanced manufacturing could mean to the area. Actually brought in an individual from New York State where we were talking about a $55 billion investment here in Genesee County at the mega site. This particular site has a $100 billion investment that was made. They also make chips there, and that's what they were talking about, what it did to drive the local economy, and it has done some phenomenal things. But listening to them and making sure we don't repeat some of the same mistakes that they made. I want to also just say, thank you to the Mott Foundation. It's been out there in the media for the last few days, but it's been since our last board meeting. The Mott Foundation has granted $600,000 to Grand Blanc community for our pathways. We started out, or wrapped up in the fall of last year, looking at the Perry Road pathway, where the county said they were about $800,000 short of being able to complete that pathway. They asked for our assistance. We were able to get not only this grant, but another grant, I think, for $200,000, is it? That, $200,000 or $300,000, so we're real close to having that pathway covered financially, and the plan is to complete it next summer. We also received funding for the pathway on Cook and Embury, and so that will be nearly funded too with quite a bit of grant money. One of the things that I think we talked a little bit about, the special assessment districts. The county's real impressed with how our DPW department handles that whole situation and our presentation to residents when they're interested, and they would like to share that with the rest of the county. And so I'm going to be doing that on behalf of our DPW, help put that together. So we're in the process here in Grand Blanc Township of several, most people probably don't realize this, but I think it's important people know that there's a number of subdivisions that have either completed the process recently or are going through it right now to have a special assessment district for repaving their subdivision streets, which in some cases it's very significant cost. We have right now Kings Point just finished a project this past year, Orchard Haven, Wishing Well, both those are, Wishing Well is under construction right now, Orchard Haven, I think later this fall. Next year, but I know there's a number of others that are considering it. I know one that we're real pleased to hear that it looks like, I'm not going to announce it yet, but it looks like they've been working for years to try and get enough signatures, and it looks like they probably have done that this year. So kudos to the residents that take up that mission of getting the signatures, of getting over 51% of the residents in the neighborhood to go along with that. It affects the entire township when we have streets in disrepair like we do in some neighborhoods. So we want to thank the people that take it on. Mr. Lima, anything to report on tonight?
I'm just putting some information together for the comprehensive annual financial report, and just a good thing to remind the board every year. We talk about, we grow at about $100 million a year in new taxable value growth. But some of the biggest things that occurred, both residential, housing, and commercial-wise, in 2024, $2 million, Wakefield Woods subdivision for new homes, the GM addition, $14.4 million, Tommy's Car Wash, $845,000, Cambridge Park, $3.9 million, the McDonald Farm subdivision, $1.9 million, the Grandview Lake subdivision, $4.5 million. Randy Wise Car Dealership, $5.5 million. The Woods of Pine Hollow, $2 million. D. Kramer, $2.2 million in their addition. Enterprise Park, $28 million. That included J.P. O'Sullivan Distributors in 2024. And Emerald Water sub, $1.1 million. Mara Technologies added $7.9 million with their addition. So those are some big numbers, and that's construction value that we're picking up with our assessing department. I think it just continues to showcase that Grand Blanc Township is a destination community. When you think back in 2024, you're like, oh, we didn't have as big of a year as we've had in some of the prior years. And then when you start going down the list and remembering that actually there were several with the addition that sometimes we forget about it because it wasn't one big project, but it was several projects that add up to a heck of a lot of growth, a heck of a lot of jobs. It just shows that we continue to drive entrepreneurship and to attract investment in Grand Blanc Township.
Does it look like, again, this year, about $180 to $100 million in taxable growth?
I think we might, we'll see when the final is all in, but I won't be surprised if we're close to what our recent average is.
I know that I attended a county meeting where they listed off the county projects around the county that contributed to, the tax base growing in Genesee County, and the top projects were all here in Grand Blanc Township, so that was real great to hear. Clerk Robertson, you had a question?
I remember at this time last year, we got some good news, good mid-year news on the issue of the pension obligations and the improvements in the unfunded liability there. Have we gotten any early rumblings from our accountant about any improvement mid-year this year?
We have not. MERS will complete the study. The actuarial results will come to us for where we were as December 31st, 2024. We'll get that information sometime in July. It's usually right at the end of June, so I would expect it in the next few weeks.
I remember it being mid-year. I wasn't precise as to my recollection as to when it was, and okay. Thank you.
Well, you know, the other value too is these road projects, these subdivision. I think, what is the big one we have coming up? Is it, it's, I think, is it 3 million or 3.9?
The wishing well project that we're doing right now is over $3 million.
Yeah, and then Orchard Haven isn't.
Orchard Haven is it's bigger than that.
I think it's 3.9.
Yep, $4 million.
It's a huge project.
Yes.
So, lots of development going on here and good things happening. It's, the sun is shining in Grand Blanc Township. That's great. Okay, anything else, Mr. Lemata?
All I got.
Okay, is a motion to adjourn in order, Mr. Supervisor? Then I will make that motion.
Okay. Support by Mr. Yancho.
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
We
opposed?
are adjourned at 7:51 PM.